Blur is going away. We are getting sharp, and Romain is missing. Where is Romain? Is the question. Say again.
I'm putting my ice cube in my coffee.
You're putting your cube in your coffee. Okay. Ice cube in your coffee.
Listen to this. Isn't it the sound of happiness?
What's in there? Coffee and ice?
Decaf and ice.
That's the wackest coffee I've heard of.
Why do you say that? I'm offended.
You
I'm gonna
should
cancel
be.
you. Is there a battery in the camera?
Probably not.
Okay. That's fine.
Why do you need batteries?
Yeah.
Okay. Enjoy your coffee. Don't spill it. Please don't spill it, bro. This table has been under a lot of spilling, so just try for once.
Spillage avoided.
Just keep it
Good morning.
away from me.
Yes.
Good morning.
2 minutes in. 2 minutes in. 2 minutes in.
That's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
3 minutes.
3 minutes in.
We can do 4.
All right.
No, we don't need to. We can go straight into what we are talking about.
What are we talking about today, Phil?
We're talking about prices and how you make prices and how we make, not how you make prices, how we make prices.
How you price yourself. How you price.
What works for us, but maybe it doesn't work for us. And
at
yeah,
the end of the
for some
podcast,
people-
we're also going to give estimates that could work for you on like standard projects to put in your
Oh, we are.
prices.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah. We talked about it never before.
Yeah. What's pricing like for you? Is it a thing that you have figured out and you're like, I'm good. I know what I'm charging. I know what my prices are.
It's funny because before working as a freelance cinematographer, I worked at an agency. I worked at another agency. I founded my agency. I worked there for like a few years, and then I worked freelance for I don't remember how long. And pricing stuff is always one of the hardest stuff to do,
Still.
no matter what. And I've talked to a lot of people working in this creative industry, whether they're designers or like photographer, and it's really like the same thing for everyone.
Mm.
Because I think like there is this imposter syndrome, where you always think like other people are better than you, cheaper than you, faster than you, and it's always really hard to navigate through those feelings and like find the right prices. Even though if you break it down to like the bare essential, pricing is pretty easy. Just take the amount of time it would take you to do something, have an hourly rate, add like a little percentage for production if you produce, and then that's about it. But for some reasons, it is very hard for me. How is it for you?
It's still also like
Can you
the
speak
same.
in the? This is the mic.
This is the mic.
Yeah, can you speak?
It's still hard sometimes. It's still hard sometimes. It really depends. I've been happy with my pricing, but it really depends where you work and how you work, because also now I think the big problem is a lot of people want to, I mean, not now, it's been probably going on for years. A lot of people want to go into this industry and they're always ready to like do stuff cheap. And now with like the transition to more content and faster content, how do you say, like faster living content, it doesn't like, it's not, you're not producing one big thing anymore like it used to be as a commercial, let's say.
Oh,
You're
okay.
rather producing like 10 different smaller,
Like expendable content, like you post it once or a couple of times, and then
it has to be like 10 short videos instead of one long one. And quality is going down, and that's easier to do. And I think that transition is just changing a lot of the industry for a lot of people, and also the prices, because less equipment, less, you know, also kind of know-how, a lot of less know-how is needed to do some stuff, also with like digital cameras and cameras getting smaller and better. Just less is needed in general. And you know, being able to to how do you say that? Being able to reason a high price gets harder, I think.
How does it
for
affect
everyone.
you though? Like,
Well, I just see that in the future. For now, it hasn't really affected me. I think there's more people around, more people offering these services. And, you know, maybe brands go with cheaper people because they just want to spend less money. If they're going to be happy with the quality that they receive, depends. You know, tendency is no, because whatever is good work, it costs money. That's just basic. But I see that in the future for sure as like a thing you have to think about. And also like the tendency, everyone I talk to, agencies, freelancers, they say like it's harder and harder to reason a high price to a client, even though it's not necessarily high, it's just normal. But since everyone is like charging so little, because it's getting simpler, then it's really hard to.
I think that's to bounce back on what you're
paid
saying.
well, yeah.
I think it's the hardest part now, at least for when I get pitch projects. When I get hired as DP, it's not as much trouble because the production company is usually taking care of this, and I basically just do my flat rate, like a day rate, and then so I feel like when you freelance and you don't produce anything, you just essentially bill for your time, right? So you have to figure out at least I think that's what we do. You figure out like the average like daily rate price for someone your level in the area you're in. We're in Switzerland, so it's probably a little higher than like somewhere else, but just the cost of living is so much higher here. But based on your level, and then when you get hired out as a DP, you just get hired out for your day rate and all which essentially is calculated like shoot days and like prep days and like recce and stuff. So I feel like for this kind of project, it's pretty easy because like you already know you have 3 day shoot, you have 1 day recce, and then you have maybe 1 day of pre-prod. So it's pretty easy. It's like 5 times X. So that's pretty fair. I think when it gets really hard is when you get into the game of getting pitched directly from the client or an agency that doesn't know better, and basically take on the role of like a production company where you have to come up with the concept, hiring out all the pre-production parts, all the post-production parts, and also having like a production fee on top of this to not just bill the hours, but also have a little bit of margin, because you're gonna pay so much money is gonna come out of your bank account to pay other people that you need to have like a little bit of margin because you take on all the risks. And I feel like this is where it's really hard to navigate now, because when clients come to you directly, oftentimes they're not really well versed into like what makes a nice video or not, and they don't often really know what they need. So they just pitch this really like basic pitch to you that doesn't, and then you're supposed to make an offer out of this. But the hard part I feel like is you make an offer based on like what you have in mind already. So let's say something really beautiful looking, multiple days of shoot, actors and stuff. And they can also pitch the same project to a one-man band that's going to do it for like a tenth of the price. Something completely different. And I feel like the whole game nowadays is in pricing and being right within like the area you're in. But reasonable, I think the thing is you have to educate and talk to the client and make the client understand like what the outcome of the project is going to be like, not without necessarily coming up with the concept and proof of concept or anything, but just like the quality of what's coming out. Because as a client, I can come up to you and be like, I need a video talking about this watch. It has to be 9x16 and 16x9 because we're doing both campaigns. Give me a quote. How much is it? So most of the times, like the small projects come in like this. Yeah. And that's where like in the past I've lost a lot of projects because I would not explain enough what was going on,
why it was more expensive than maybe someone else pitching what you're bringing to the table. 100%.
Because you can really beat like a one-man band. And I've also feel like I've also realized that sometimes you're working against like other production companies that not necessarily have the same level of doing stuff, which is completely fine because there's a market for that. But then it's really important for the client to understand like the final outcome and like how it's going to look like, because I can go and shoot everything like for social, everything on the phone and just have a good concept. But if the concept is having something really good looking and like look like a commercial and something
where you need specific things,
exactly,
that
this is
cost money,
completely different.
What about like freelance though?
Yeah.
How did you come up with your freelance rates? What was the way you went about to come up with your
freelance rate?
pricings
I think
in
like
the end?
first it's really like talking to other people doing the same thing at the same level ish. So talking to people like you, talking to other DPs, talking to also production companies that have hired out a lot of DPs prior to this, and then you can basically see, you can essentially see where you fit in,
Like what kind of the
which
range
bracket,
is?
you know, because you have the beginner that's probably not never going to get hired as DP. You have the DP that has a couple of years of experience. You have someone who has like done X amount of commercials and like have a better understanding and has a reel to show for, stuff like this. And you have the DP that only does like the like top 10% stuff. And I think at least in Switzerland, it's pretty easy to like know where you can fit.
You fit in
in these things, and then you just basically put it to test. So like when companies like try to hire you out, give a rate, and like see if it's okay for them. If they always say yes, it's probably that you're a little bit under. If they say no, it's too expensive, then you know the upper threshold, and then you just try to like fine tune this.
Yeah.
I don't. Have you done this as well?
Well, a lot came from like talking to people, like you said.
Yeah.
And then also, there is in Switzerland, there's the SSFL, you know it as well, that have like, how do they call it? Like they give suggestions to how much a person in each crew role should earn, depending on their experience. There's 3 levels, level 1, 2, and 3. And depending on how much experience and how many films you've worked on, you fit in level 1, 2, or 3. And then they have like pricings to like, this is what a person in that role, that level should earn. That's really helpful for like, the ballpark, like what can you earn? And then also like just also calculating your I mean, that's cool. Like that's what the market is going to talk about. If you charge, I don't know, 5K as a DP instead of like, I don't know, like level 1, I think is 1.5K there. That's when you get hired without being self-employed, or 1.2K, I don't remember. Then you already know, like, that's not the ballpark. I'm not going to have a chance in the beginning if I start like that. But then also it's important to figure out how much you work and how much you can work, like the absolute maximum, and figure, like, do the math and figure out how many days can I work as a DP, how much money can I make, and how much money do I spend doing that, and how much money do I need, and then divide that by the days you work and figure out what's like the minimum I need if I do the maximum days I can work, and compare that to the rates. And if it makes sense, then probably you're in a good ballpark and kind of have a range of good pricings, and then figure out where in this range you want to fit in, because you can still decide, like, I just want to get the maximum I can, maybe get hired less, I don't want to work that much. Or you can say, hey, I want to get experience, and I'd rather price myself in the lower half of this range, which is okay, and rather like work more, get to know more people, and then as I go, like, raise my prices.
I think it also goes like everything in the beginning when you first start. I think your prices are going to be in the lower end of stuff. And as you progress, I think what you bring to the table to the production company is more than just, the cam up role, or like the really basic DP stuff. You have more experience, you can help the production company as well. And this adds up. And like, I think your value is going to increase with time, obviously, if you go in like an upward trajectory. But, I think the prices are not set in stone, and it's something that has to constantly evolve, I think, with like your skill set.
It's very interesting because I think in like film at least here in Switzerland, in film and series like TV work, it's pretty fixed. Like they have this
Convention
suggestions from SSFV, and as far as I know, it's like pretty spot on. If you're not like a head of department, which always is a bit tricky to, then it's like pretty. That's what you get, and I think that's also kind of the cap. I don't think a lot of people pay more. With commercials, of course, it's completely different because there's another kind of money around, and there's
commercial is different.
It's open to the top, basically. Like to how much in culture, in films and series, it's not just open. There's a limited amount of money available for this project every time. So
But if we go back to the freelance part and the DP, I think everything you said is right, and I think we're gonna go back to it afterwards when we talk about like how to price bigger stuff. Like if you have the role of like a production company, but if we talk about the freelance part and the DP only part, there are a few rates you need to have, or you can have just like 1 day rate and like base everything off of it. But you can also have day rate for shoot days, day rate for preps, and day rate for scouting. And I think that I've been doing this, and I have a rate for like everything that's pre-prod, and one rate for the shoot days, 2 different rates. And I think like when I do my quotes, and like, I think the final amount of money makes more sense than when I just have 1 day rate of just shooting.
Yeah.
Because the shoot day is probably going to be the most expensive one that you have, because you have like it's longer days, it's more intense in terms of like just everything you have to do. It's just more taxing. Whereas the prep days, usually they're not full days. Sometimes they're a little bit less and stuff. So I'm having pre-production rates and production rates, I think helped a lot. And I think I got more jobs just because like the final price makes more sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm cheap. I'm just saying I have really defined like pre-prod and like production rates.
So in general, do you try to take everything apart and be like, so this is like, for example, the shoot day is this, travel expenses is this, prep is this, gear is this, food is this. So like the client or agency or whatever production company sees exactly what each thing is for? Or do you have like a package of saying, look, a shoot day costs that much. It's travel expenses is in there. An hour prep or is in there to load the car and unload the car. Yeah. And et cetera, et cetera.
How do you
go about it?
I'm trying to be as like simple as possible for the quote. So essentially, what I have is pre-production and production listed like this, and I also have a line where it says travel not included, and like F&B and like catering not included as well.
What not included?
Like F&B, like food and stuff not included.
Yeah.
Because these are the stuff like you don't really know. Like, for instance, if I get pitched for a project, I don't really know where we're going to shoot it. So I don't know if I'm going to have to drive an hour or like 5 hours, or if I have to go take a plane, or like, if it's really tricky. And accommodation either, like it's not in there either. Because I feel like these points are part of the production budget that I'm not aware of, and I don't know what the production is going to be like initially. So I think it's just like, okay, you want me to be
project based
4 days, so 4 days production is this. We have 1 day of recce or like 2, and then 1 day of like camera tests and stuff if need to, and this is basically the quote. But I also try to really list and be clear with like the agency of what's not included in there, because I think if you're clear with that as soon as like you submit the offer, then if they come back to you and
they
say,
can calculate already also for themselves, like
exactly,
how much is he going to cost. Let's say if we shoot 1 hour from here, they can calculate like, okay, what are we going to need for him?
Exactly. Okay. Whereas if you don't do that and you don't stipulate in the contract, essentially, the stuff that are not in there, then the relationship can get like a little bit like tensed, because you say, okay, I know I didn't take into account like travel there, so you have to pay me like,
and they expected
0.7 francs on like the kilometer, like hard stuff like this. So they're not expecting this. And I think transparency is like the most important one, because I think in this business, especially if you take on the role of the production company, a lot of them are like kind of like opaque and like not really transparent in terms of like what they're doing, where their money is going. And as for clients, it's usually like lots of money. So like the more transparent you are, the better. And it goes for GP. So like whatever role you take on, essentially, even if it's like assistant roles, even PA and stuff like this, like you have to be clear of what's included and what's not included.
It's interesting because I hear both. Like, and at first I was sure it's much better to list everything like individually, so people can see what you charge for and see why you're charging for that. But then instead of just having one bulk like package, like one day costs that much, and them not being sure like what's included there, why is it more than maybe the other one I have next to it, but then the other one, which maybe isn't stated, would charge additionally travel, and in the end it's the same quote. But you just don't see it initially. But then on the other hand, I heard of a lot of production companies, agencies, that just for them it's easier to have one number and being able to calculate with that, and knowing that for that price I'm getting this DP with everything around, and I don't need to be worried, what travel expenses are going to come up, what's this going to come up, because with one crew member, okay, that's okay, but if you have 10 crew members and everything is times 10, that can add up quickly to like being too much, maybe if you forget to calculate.
But that's also the role of the production company
of
to
course.
take care of this, because
like
like
if you make their life easier, then tendency is if they know how, like for example with production companies that I work a lot, it's easier to have like this package, and they know
flat fee basically.
Kind of, they know for one day I'm going to pay this much, and I know 99% is included, and not I might have this day rate, but there's like 10 things coming on top of that, and like I have no idea what it really costs each project. I have to go up to him, and that way they can already calculate with you. Of course, once the project is really starting, you have to go over it, and maybe there's some differences, but it's not as big as if it's just the day rate.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm just saying, like, there's both sides, and it's really interesting too.
But I don't think there's a lot of things that are like out of their control, because like if we think about it, there's travel, and like they know where if they want me to put me on a plane and like fly me somewhere, they know the price of the ticket. I don't.
Of course.
The food, they have to offer catering to everyone anyways, and accommodation, they have to like have a place for people to sleep. So like they take care of this.
Yeah, but then you have prep days, and they're not aware of how much prep you're going to need for each project, because there might be more or less.
Yeah, but that's why like I think I think you misunderstood what I'm doing.
Okay, sorry.
I have one day rate for production and one day rate for pre-production.
Yeah.
But the quote I'm giving them is not, this is my day rate. It's based on the discussion we had. Day rate for production is 50, like whatever. And the total amount is there. And for pre-production is the same thing. So I know already, based on discussion I had with either director or the production company, I'll be like, okay, we know it's a 3-day shoot on 2 locations. Location scout is probably going to be half to like a day. So it's a 1 day. Always go the upper of the estimate. And like pre-prod for this camera test and stuff is probably going to be half a day.
Yeah.
So this I list. It's not just like the day rate. It's just my day rate is this. And based on the discussion, it's 3 times
I believe
production.
This is going to be needed. Yeah.
1 time production and 0.5 time production again.
Yeah.
So basically they know how much it's going to cost, plus travel expense, accommodation and food.
Yeah.
Because I've over the years, I feel like this is the easiest way to do things without anyone get frustrated. Because if you get to like, okay, like I have like a $200 travel fee included in there, and all of a sudden you have to park overnight for 2 nights, and then parking is not included in there, it costs more than $200, then you're gonna get frustrated because you start paying out of your own pocket, whereas it should be production.
Or you charge them and they expect it to like,
exactly.
I thought this is included, now it's not.
Exactly.
So it's frustrating. Yeah. But I think it's really hard. There's not right or wrong. It's just
no. And also this is something.
And also,
you learn. We talk a lot about relationships on this podcast, but it's you learn as you go. Oh, this production company likes me to do it this way, so let's do it this way. It's easier for them.
And it also really depends on your project, because there might be people that the projects are very similar. So you can make a package and 95% of the time this will be correct, because I mostly do the same. And then there's people who work on so many different projects from very small to very big, and then there's a package doesn't make sense because for one project it's like very simple, and for another it's much more complicated.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think you have to just go through it and
Yeah. So this is for the
each as
freelance
it
part.
matches, yeah.
Freelance part is basically day rate. You can't really go wrong with that with doing day rate. You just have to like
Yeah.
finish.
Do you do
it.
half day rates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
There's people that don't do half days.
yeah, but that's just too hard to like process. And like a lot of the jobs I get for GP, I don't necessarily get like an email saying like, please, Romain, send us a quote. It's more like WhatsApp, like, yo, we got this project, this amount of days, this blah, blah, blah. Can you give me a quote? And usually it's just like, they know my day rate. I just give them like, okay, it's going to be X amount without VAT, whatever. And they okay, good, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like as you go and as you build these relationships, you're going to get more comfortable with the day rates. And it's not going to be any surprises to anyone unless you rise them drastically, but you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
but I just want to go back to like because like I think for people like when you work freelance and you don't necessarily have like overhead and stuff, it's pretty straightforward how to bill, how to invoice.
I think it's still hard, especially if you're beginning. Like
if you're beginning,
you
that's
know.
what we said. You have to like find out like the people
100%.
doing the same level. But like when you get hired out as like a production company sort of, and you have to organize everything, because I still do those jobs because those are like the jobs you get like more money off of basically because you play this role. I think having a cheat sheet sort of like the one we have in Switzerland with the what is it called
SFV.
Yeah, so basically prices for all the roles will help you quote a quote that's reasonable and expected within like the game you're in, you know, because you know like okay, I know that I'll need a director, DP is gonna be me, I need AC, I need this, and you have all the prices. What's really important, I think, for people doing this is that you always have to charge a little extra, a certain percentage extra, because you take on the role of the production company. So basically you do day rate for everything, you add F&B, everything in there, and then you add like an extra 15 to 20% on top of this, just because it's like you take on all the risk. If something fucks up during the day, you're responsible for everything.
And also you want to earn, you want to earn money on top of that. You don't want to earn the money only that you are spending and that you are needing for your time.
Exactly.
You want to make some plus.
Exactly.
Which every company, every basic economical company needs to do.
Yeah. Something you don't necessarily do for when you hired out as a freelancer, because you just hired out for your time.
Freelance, it's not really possible. Yeah.
But when you hired out as a production company, even though you're a freelancer, but like you get hired out to carry on the entire production, this is when you have to like add a little extra for margin, because this is where otherwise you just sell your time and you basically cap out after a certain amount because you can't work that much all the time. But if you had like I think 20% is pretty reasonable, 15 to 20% of production fees, basically. It's great. And so this is one way to do it, like one thing you have to do. And then don't forget to list out the gear. I think like a lot of people, especially around here, have like a flat fee for the gear, or like don't charge for the gear for some reason because they bought
charge.
Yeah, some people here don't necessarily charge for the gear because they have like a lower end camera and they don't really see like why they should charge it, because they already paid the camera back like X times. But it is really important for everyone in the industry, if everybody would start to do this, that would be nice, to charge for the equipment you bring on. So camera, lighting, grip, like everything. You don't have to list everything, but just have packages. And it makes it easier if everybody does this to explain to the client, oh, it's gonna cost more because we're not gonna get like a GoPro to shoot this, but we're gonna get like an Alexa, you know. And they have to understand the difference in terms of quality and stuff.
Absolutely.
So this is important.
Yeah, I didn't know that a lot of people don't charge.
I was actually surprised,
young people
bro.
and new people know that.
Because
I understand.
when I was working that's a long time ago, like almost 10 years ago, like working in a production company, not a production company, like an agency.
Yeah.
And we would hire out like entry level freelancers for some of the more social content, because like we didn't really need like high end stuff. And no one was searching for the gear. It was basically just like, oh, it's 1 day of shoot, so X amount. It's 2 days of like edit, and that's it. And when you think about it from like the agency perspective, it's nice because like, it's less money and you can charge more to the client. But from the freelancer, you invested all this money into like, I don't know, a camera, a tripod, and like a couple lights maybe. You have to make your money back off of it. Otherwise, it's just like, it's not a business purchase. It's just like a
you're gonna pay
purchase.
for your like with your salary. You're gonna pay
Yeah,
for your equipment
exactly.
because once that camera breaks, you have no money on the side for that camera because all your salary. That's all you have. You have salary, and that's what you have to pay for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So make sure and make sure the client understand as well what kind of equipment you get.
And how can people? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
How can people like? How would you suggest other people to bill to price their equipment? How do you go about it? How do you price your equipment? Maybe briefly.
How do I go about it? I usually go look at like rental houses around me and like see how much they charge.
Mm-hmm.
Basically match that or a little bit lower, and then you can basically based on this, if you use a lot of your own gear, you can make packages. Otherwise, you just use the gear. Like let's say you want an LF, like go check out the rental house, get an LF, and like put the price in. But what I usually do for my gear is that I have packages. If you want to shoot on this camera, this is this much, this much, this much. So it's easier and simpler for the client because they don't care if I have like 512 gig cards or just 4 or like 5 V mounts.
They just want to be able to shoot on it.
They just want to shoot. So having like, okay, you have this camera package, this amount, and then make it simple because you don't really need
100%.
And lights, I usually do basic interview lights. So three things.
Lighting.
Yeah. So it's basically one setup with like the small lights I have here. And if I need more output, then I'll just take the rental, add this in, and
It gets very specific, of course.
Exactly. But you don't necessarily have to be too specific for the client, especially if you talk to like a client, direct to the client and not through a production company. But you have to do. How do you go about it? Do you also have packages for your cameras and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense to a certain amount, and also I don't own like a ton of lighting gear because most of the times we end up renting anyway. So what I have is like 2 camera packages and one like kind of all my gear because most of the time I bring all my gear and then we add the lights and gear grip that we need.
Yeah.
So I have like 3 packages, like a basic video, a basic photo package, and then like another camera package.
The higher up.
Yeah.
Higher end.
And then like a full package of like the camera and like all my grip and lighting gear. And that's like the max I can offer. And on top of that, we just need like anything else we need. Yeah. I do that. And with the rent, like the equipment price is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Go to rental houses next to you, figure out what is this camera, and then also figure out, okay, what comes with the camera, because if the camera, like it's only the body and it costs that much, then you have to think about, okay, my camera is rigged out. It has media, it has monitor, it has cables, it has, all these like batteries, and then kind of figure out, okay, I can charge even more for that, because if I rented it, I would have to rent this as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then kind of go about it like this and maybe make packages, maybe go a bit less, like a bit lower.
Do you do discounts a lot, like on packages? If your overall quote is like borderline too expensive for the project and you really want to do the project, do you discount these often or?
Well, most likely it will be the equipment, because that's the easiest for me to discount, because I have the equipment, I don't have to pay for it. Yeah. And it's probably already paid back with like, 10, 20, 30 projects. So definitely if I do stuff, help out and want to like how do you say discount anything, then it's most likely it's the equipment. I mean, it's been many times that I said, look, I can do 50% on the equipment, or I can like come with my camera for free, fuck it, because otherwise they would use another camera, and I much prefer to use my camera, of course. So I'll say, you know what, fine, like I'll discount my own equipment. But I think it's very important for people like us to always like state that also in the invoice or the offer, to show them how much it usually is, but then take it out and say, I discount you this much, or I take this out. But it's important to see on paper how much it usually is, because then people are aware for the next time how much it costs, and that it's not like it's understood
Yeah, I understand.
that
Like,
it is discounted
I
and not
think
just that's the price.
this what you just mentioned is really important for everyone, and it's going to help everyone, you, your friends, whoever. Is like, clients need to understand the prices of things, even though they might not agree with this. If you price yourself in the bracket you're supposed to be in, within reason of like the market you're in, there's no reasons why you should like be cheaper or like discount and stuff. People have to understand, and then it starts to get like into like a business negotiation. If like you're a couple thousand too extra, like too much, okay, what can we cut down? Maybe we do only a half day recce instead of full day. That means that we won't be able to spend as much time on each location, but that's feasible. So I can cut this out. I can give you like a 5% discount, like 20% discount on the gear, 50%, whatever. And then this is a business negotiation. But I think at first, never discount stuff
Just because.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or just because you want the project like from the get-go. Because otherwise, like the prices of everyone will come down just because like some people are fucking up the industry right now around here as well, because like they're pricing themselves so low that clients go to them because it's cheap, not because necessarily that what they do is great, but because it's cheap. And it starts to get like, it's a problem when it goes something like
and
this.
most of the time that's the problem. These are people that don't live from that. They have another job. They might do this like on the side, on the weekend, or like partially.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't really matter if they're profitable or not, because they have this other job that they really get their money from.
Yeah.
And, you know, for them, it's easy to like go down. I mean, I've been there. I started out, I probably charged way too little, which is normal for a while.
Yeah.
But if you do this for a long time,
you're messing up everyone.
It's really hard. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that basically at the beginning I wasn't sure like what can I charge for. You know, I wasn't at the beginning, like very beginning, I wasn't aware. Oh, I can charge for my gear.
Yeah.
Even though I don't rent it, but the client needs to rent it because it's mine and I paid for it. So small stuff like that, but even more. And one thing I want to mention is just basically, if you're unsure, every step you have to do has to be paid somehow because it's work you do. You know, if it's pre-production,
you don't work for free.
If it's, you know, you can always discount. You can always say, look, fuck it, I'll do these 2 hours like for free because I do a big project and I want it. You can always do that, but initially you have to think about what all you're putting in: pre-production, discussions, meetings, scoutings, you know, organization. If you have to organize a crew, this, you know, that's work that the production company or agency doesn't have to do. So you need to basically get paid for. Be it, you know, equipment, like we said, sourcing equipment, like I said, sourcing crew, preparation for your gear, even, you know, half a day prep, 2 hours prep, whatever. And also post. If you're doing post, you know, a lot of people do, okay, I have a day rate as an editor, but who's paying for your suite? You know, you have a laptop monitor, you know, you have an Adobe subscription maybe. Who is paying for that?
Yeah.
Basically, you should either like bring this into your quote, like into your day rate as an editor. Yeah. Because that's pretty standard. You use the same gear every time. That's fair to make a package. Or you state it per day. I want this and this amount for my suite, because otherwise you'd have to have a suite. Or color grading. You need a good monitor. You need this. You need DaVinci. All these things, everything you need should be charged for in some way.
I'm into that. I think like
for this, the whole process.
It is really, really, really important what you just said.
And that gets forgotten very often.
Yeah. Because you have access to the stuff. If you had to go and rent, if I'm talking to an editor,
you have nothing.
Yeah, imagine you have nothing. The day rate, like
Otherwise, I need to get one.
Exactly. I think the perception the client will have of what you do will be heightened, because they'll know, okay, he has this, he has like monitors, he has a suite. Oh, that means that we can come and look at the project. I'm like, yes, you can come and like, this goes back to like explaining. I think we're gonna talk about that now. Explaining to the client like why you might be more expensive than the next guy, and give them reasons to understand and want to work with you despite being more expensive. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the 500 more per day is going to change anything in their lives.
The client will only go with the cheaper option if they think it's basically the same,
yeah.
but this one is cheaper. But if they understand, you might be more expensive, but it's definitely not the same. The way he describes his work and the way he quotes it and the way I understand what all he brings to the table when we shoot with him, when we go with him, then it's another discussion. Then I know it's more expensive. But
how do you go about that? Value. Like, how do you explain? Because like of course we talked about gear and like how we list it in our prices, but how do you, in lack of better terms, like educate the client in terms of like what you are offering?
Yeah, we talked about that recently.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but for me, what I noticed really helps is, if I have to quote something with someone didn't have a lot of communication yet, I try to call them and have like a quick chat about the project and ask them, relevant questions for them to understand that I'm taking it first very serious, and that I'm throwing in questions that they probably haven't thought of, which makes me, it sounds cocky, but it makes you seem like the professional you are, and it shows them that you understand the bigger picture and the process in the end better than them, because that's what you're getting hired for. Mm-hmm. And if you show that to them, they will already be heightened in being ready to pay more, because they understand, I talked to Phil on the phone and he seemed really, experienced, and he asked a lot of questions about this thing that I didn't even think of.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, and it makes it easier for them to spend money on you. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that really helped me. I think the rest, it really depends on the project and how far you want to go, how much you want to.
It's always hard, because like I think a lot of times like production companies or agencies, especially agencies, I think when they pitch you, like they want you to come up almost with like a pre-concept. So like and for me, this has been a no-go for like ever, because like I'm not gonna spend time working on like a creative, give it to you for free.
And then you
wish. I'm not into creative shopping. Yeah. But what I've been doing, because we talked about it recently, and like I think it makes a lot of sense, is that instead of just making a quote of day rate, this and that, is make a document, not a treatment at all, but just like a document, maybe talking about the context of the video, what's expected of you, who you are, the process, and the prices. And illustrate with like some BTS pictures and stuff like this your work, so people understand, first of all, that you've been working on different sets, but also use pictures that show that there's a lot of people on the set, so that they understand the difference between like working with you, someone who's gonna like hire out like 5-10 other people with very specific roles, as opposed to like one dude with a Sony Alpha who's going to show up and just like run and gut with a gimbal the whole day. Yeah. And I think this makes a huge difference. That
might be what they're expecting if they're hiring you as Romain.
Yeah.
But then again, you have a completely other picture of this project.
Exactly. And even if you don't get the job and they end up going with like the cheaper option that might be better suited for them, that I don't think I'm going to do.
That's also okay.
That's also okay. Yeah. But they will know, next year we have like this budget. Project,
he's the right person.
Let's go. And that goes to show that like transparency and like trying to educate and explain without giving out too much of like the creative stuff makes a lot of sense.
I think it comes back to what I just said. It comes back to showing expertise and experience and showing them that, it kind of like reminding them of why they're coming up to you in the first place. Because they're not coming up to you just because you make videos. Yeah. They're coming up to you because they can't make videos and you are the person that can.
But you also have to be okay with like not being a good fit because you offer all of this.
The more honest you are, the better you will be remembered.
The worst is disappointment.
Hey, honestly, I don't think we are fit. because you could charge them too much and do like this work, and they will appreciate you being like, look, honestly, I don't think you need me. Like, if you just get someone with a gimbal and a camera, it will be enough for what you want.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. You can save a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
They'll be like, fuck, that's a nice guy. If I ever need anything, I'll definitely go to him because I know he's going to be honest and tell me what I need. Yeah. Yeah.
And or you can also offer to provide your expertise in like organization and stuff and hire out someone who just does like gimbal and Sony Alpha and just get like a small percentage on the
100%.
job. And then you don't have to go shoot with gimbals and then someone else does. It's great.
100%. That was very all over the place.
But that was nice.
But it was nice.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make a...
You want to sum it up?
But it's a lot of summing up.
Oh, basically, have day rates that you are comfortable with based on like the area you're in. Charge for everything you do and everything you use. Be clear and transparent with the client. Explain what you do and be okay if like it's not a good fit for them, but just be clear and transparent. And
make sure you charge for every step of the whole process.
Step. Yeah.
Don't forget anything. Like, write down the whole process and then think of what costs how much.
Exactly.
And one quote just to sum it up, to stop it with. I picked it up somewhere. I don't remember where. When I started out, and somebody said, in the beginning, if you're quoting something and you don't get like a bad stomach from like thinking about giving the client this quote, you're probably quoting too little.
Yeah.
So you have to be like, shit, I can't quote that. No way they're gonna pay it. If you're feeling that, then chances are you're in a good place. If you're not getting that feeling, chances are you're charging too little.
Yeah.
If you're starting out, that might be something that can help you.
Yeah. All right now. It's good. Good episode.
Priceless episode.
It's priceless. Oh, jeez. That joke. Thank you so much for guys for listening to this 48-minute episode. That's actually 44 because we talked about coffee for the first 4 minutes. But thank you so much. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify. Leave 5 stars review. If you want to leave 1 star of less than 5 stars, just don't. Just think about it really hard, but don't. And
tell us, but don't tell anyone.
And let us know on Instagram if there are any topics you want us to cover. We'll gladly do so. And
see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.